We're doing science, crystal science, that is. I have 4 raw crystals here, and I'm going to explain why I have these 4 raw crystals here. Because I want to recreate a event. Yeah, let's say that. So I had a customer reach out to me last night. This is a new customer, and this video is no way to call them out specifically because I'm not sharing any personal information. I wanted to use it as a teaching moment. So in the email, they said, I placed an order and received my crystals a few days ago, and they are already turning colors. I tried the ladder test and immediately my crystals got hot and started to smell. Is there any way we can work something out? Because I hate feeling like I wasted my money. Now, there are reasons why a crystal may change colors or become cloudy, and we're going to talk about those because we're going to talk about everything. But when it comes to the fire test, that is my least favorite method of testing realness because 1, it's not safe, and 2, you kind of have this split down the middle where there are people who think it's a legitimate way and there are people that don't think it's a legitimate way. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm going to do a fire test. I have my lighter right here, but I'm also going to show you a couple other ways that you can test crystals to determine if they are real or not, which it does depend on the softness or hardness of the crystal. So we're going to talk about the Mohs hardness scale a little bit as well. Now we have the rose quartz, the tiger's eye, the black tourmaline, and I have a single satin sparselenite wand in the bag because those are the crystals they ordered. So that's what I'm going to be using to do this test. The method that I speak of most often when it comes to determining if a crystal is real or not is touch. So this is rose quartz, and these pieces in these bags are what I use for my mystery crystal bundles after I do my restocks, but that is not the topic of this video. So when you're picking crystals up, they should be cold to the touch. All of these are cold in my hand right now. Now, the longer I hold these, obviously they will pick up on my body heat and they'll start to warm up. I personally like to wear crystals in my bra, so I will put palm stones here. And it sits with me all day. And by the time I take it out, it is hot because it has literally been against my skin all day. And so crystals will absorb that body heat. But once you put the crystal down, it will go back to its cool temperature. So that is the way that I most oftenly will talk to my customers and my followers about when they ask me, or just when I'm just talking about crystals and doing some type of educational moment. So coolness. Another way, and again, this determines or depends on the softness or hardness of the crystal for it to be able to scratch something else. So this is one of my glass herb jars that isn't, obviously it doesn't have any herbs in it. It's one of my old jars. It had orange peels in there if anyone cared. And I did a scratch test right here. You probably can't see. And I'm going to do one more up close and personal so you can see what I mean by a crystal being able to scratch glass, because that is a determining method. Yeah, a determining method to determine if a crystal is real or not. But again, this does depend on how hard or how soft the crystal is to be able to scratch glass. You can see my pre-existing scratch here, and this one was kind of a little play scratch. We're not gonna pay any attention to that one. So I have the rose quartz. Let's see if we can do one. That's a good one. So you see, I can't wipe that off. That is a scratch in the glass, and I can feel the texture of where it changed the smoothness of this jar or glass. I'm gonna take a piece of black tourmaline and do the same thing. So we see our scratch there. A piece of tiger's eye. This is the satin sparselenite wand, and this is the softest of all 4 crystals. It is a 2 on the Mohs hardness scale. So I doubt that this will scratch, but let's test the theory. It does not scratch. All it does is leave a little bit of the selenite dust behind. But in reference to the temperature test, this is cold in my hand. So we're going to do the fire test next. And you can see it breaking off because that is a very fragile crystal. This is rose quartz. And as you can see, it's already a pale pink. It's not the deepest pink, but you can kind of see some deeper inclusions throughout. And for the fire test, I believe it's recommended to hold the crystal under the fire for at least 20 seconds, I believe. So That's what we're gonna do. I think that's a safe spot. Yeah. Trying to make sure I don't burn myself. This is one of the reasons why I don't recommend the fire test. It's not safe. I believe that was over 20 seconds. And see, it's hot, right? Because I put heat on it. I put fire on it, but it's not burning me. I can touch it immediately after. My fingers red because that lighter hurts my thumb, but I can touch it immediately after. It's warm, it's hot, but put it down and it'll go back to its temperature. I haven't smelled anything off of the rose quartz because that is one of the things they said, and those were the 2 crystals they pointed out having an issue. But I know for tiger's eye specifically, if you look at this bag, you can see essentially how kind of dusty / dirty they are, because I don't do crystal baths. I just don't find it necessary. Like, this is the earth essence on this crystal, and so I leave them as it is. That would be what I would assume would create a smell, because again, I'm not doing any type of crystal bath. So let's test the tiger's eye. I think that might be a safe spot. I've never done this with tiger's eye before. I have done it with quartz type crystals, so I have no idea how this one's gonna do as far as like the touching of it, because it is a different type of composition. So let's see. I believe that was over 20 seconds. So we can touch it. It's hot, obviously. We put fire on it, but I can touch it. It's not like on the stove, fresh off the frying pan hot, you know? It's obviously warmer in my palm because that's a more sensitive area, but it's not unbearable. And this side is still cool. This side is still cool. Well, I'm holding it so it has my body heat, but this side is nowhere near as warm as this side where I put the fire. So that's black tourmaline. Touching. This one's a lot hotter, but I can still touch it. And this side still feels normal. There's no change in how it looks. So that's a thing too. Like, there's no change in how that point corner tip looks. There's no melting, there's no bubbling, anything like that. So yes, it's hot because fire. I'm going to keep mentioning that because we're putting something hot. We're putting fire on something. Fire is doing what fire is supposed to do. But this did not change the appearance, the composition of this crystal. And I do kind of smell the heat on this one because it does have still its earth essence on it. So I do smell that one a little bit, but there's no change in the crystal itself. And this side is nowhere near as warm as this side. This one did change, which I honestly expected because this is a 2 on the Mohs hardness scale. So you can see it made it more, I guess, white. It kind of sucked the color out of it. Well, I mean, it's a lack of color, but do you see what I mean? Like, it changed it. It did change it. But this side is still very cool. This one being a 2 on the Mohs hardness scale and a fragile crystal, and we already saw how easily the pieces can break off. So the fire did cause it to do that. So wow, I've never actually done that with, well, again, okay. So I've only done certain crystals, but this was an interesting one to do, and it did change a little bit. It's more, it's more powdery because this can be, what's the word? If you put selenite in water, it will dissolve because it's that soft of a material. And so you'll see people that will grind up selenite intentionally to use it and things. I could do fingerprints. So we did learn something new. So these were the 4 crystals that were ordered. All of them are still the same in composition, the same in color. There was no change much except for with the selenite. But I really did expect that of that one because it is the softest of the four. Back to the Mohs hardness scale. Mohs. It's Mohs. I believe it's the Mohs, like the S is silent, hardness scale. Tiger's Eye on the scale, which it goes from 1 to 10. Obviously, 1 being the softest, 10 being the hardest. So Tiger's Eye is a 6.5 to 7 hardness wise. So it is closer to that more durable material. Black tourmaline is a 7 to 7.5, 7.5. And obviously, I just put all of these crystals to the fire test. Well, some of the rose quartz to the fire test. I can hold this. It's warm. It feels like how it would feel if I was holding it in my hand like this. Like if I was meditating with this crystal, I would hold it in my hand like that. It feels like that same type of temperature. Rose quartz is a 7. And selenite, which we've already covered, is a 2. And this is satin spar selenite. So it is already a cloudy, opaque crystal naturally. Now, I do want to read a piece from one of the articles that I sent her because I did send 3, and they all essentially say the same thing, but they're worded how they're worded because they were written by 3 different people. So in this one, it says, crystals have a lot of things going inside them, and hence noticing some unusual change in the crystal becomes an expert task. For example, there are instances where you see a rainbow inside the crystal, which might be caused due to the internal fractures in a crystal. In reality, there are many factors that affect the color of a crystal. Crystals interact with the energies inside you as well as the energies around you. Sometimes the exchange of these energies can be so intense that it leaves a mark on the crystal that is visible to the naked eye in the form of a crack or color change. These spikes in energy are caused because the crystals tend to accelerate the healing process or healing properties in some cases. For example, if a person is feeling low and alone, then rose quartz will absorb the negative thoughts in that person and make them feel more optimistic and confident. This process might lead to a color change in the rose quartz or might even cause some never seen before attribute to pop up. Another factor that may lead to a color change in a crystal is sunlight, as there are stones that can change color when kept in sunlight. And rose quartz is one of the crystals that I give a quote unquote warning on about sunlight because if it is left in the sun too long, it will fade. Amethyst as well. So when it comes to recharging your crystals in the sun, which will also cleanse the crystals, no more than 30 minutes because any type of long-term exposure can be damaging and harmful to the crystals. Now, to finish off this article, it says crystals are also affected by the surrounding environment in which they are placed, the temperature in which they are stored, and the amount of light they are exposed to. One key component to be mentioned here is that not all crystals can be used for healing once they have changed their color. Such crystals should be cleansed and can be kept in plants later on because some plants love crystals and there are crystals that are especially beneficial for plants if you are a plant mom or plant dad. So to recap, we have covered the temperature test, the scratch test, and the fire test, which speaking of the fire test, another reason why I am not a fan of the fire test is because crystals are an energy source. They're not a living being, but they are to me a living thing when you're thinking about the energy work that we do with them, the energy source that flows through them, and how we incorporate them into our spiritual work. And so I just think it's mean. It's mean-spirited to the crystals to just want to, fire test them. So there are definitely other ways to check. And if you are ever concerned about the quality of the crystals that you are buying, not to say everyone is going to handle it the same way as me, but I would always recommend reaching out to the person that you purchase the crystals from. Because if they have integrity and if they really stand on business, because I am standing on business with this as well, then they're going to do everything they can to prove to you that they have provided you with a quality product. I sent pictures of the inventory in each bin that it was in to show that this is where I pulled the crystals from. These crystals have been sitting here for months and they look as they did when I put them here, when I restocked them on my website. I showed the articles to show this information. I sent a picture comparison to show a satin spar selenite, which is this, compared to a true selenite, which is more transparent, more see-through, whereas like I said, this is very cloudy, this is very opaque. There really isn't any type of window to see through that. So I did everything I could, and I did refund them for the crystals that they said they had an issue with because I wouldn't feel right feeling like a customer is not satisfied with something that I've provided with them. But I also, like I said, wanted to take this moment to share some education. So if you have any questions, if you have anything to share, if you want to share your experience of shopping with me and what that's been like for you, definitely leave a comment on this video and let's talk about it.